Voices of Westward. Today's episode is called Turning Challenges into Wins, Real Stories from the Field. And if you've ever dealt with a frustrated resident, a midnight emergency, or a vendor who didn't show up, then this one's probably for you. Today I'm joined by Kelsey Byrne, our Director of Property Management. Thanks for joining, Kelsey.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me, Mahi. Excited to be here.
Before we jump into the heavy stuff, let's start with the basics. How would you describe property management in one word?
If I had to pick one word, I think that would be unpredictable.
I think that's probably the most accurate answer we could get. Now let's talk about one of those unpredictable moments. Can you kind of take us back to a time when things didn't go as planned, one of those all hands on deck situations?
Yes, if I had to pick just one, a recent one that comes to mind is a direct correlation from the weather we've been having. We had temperatures down into the -20s with wind chills. So oftentimes that comes with frozen or burst pipes. One particular complex that we manage, we received notification that there were both frozen pipes and burst pipes. So that meant there is water actively leaking in the property.
Ooh, okay. What was your first reaction when you realized how serious the situation actually was?
First reaction is all hands on deck. We need to figure out who can get there as quickly as possible to mitigate.
Yeah, and at that moment, what was your biggest concern that was running through your mind? Was it like residents, repairs, or having like an on-site team?
All of it. I think the biggest thing for those types of situations is action and making sure that the proper action is taken. And so in this case, it's making sure that we get the water shut off immediately to prevent further damage to the property.
Yeah, and when a situation like that arises, like how would you say residents react early on?
I think their initial response is a level of panic or anxiousness until they at least hear from us and know that we've got it under control, it's being handled, and they're being actively communicated with.
Do you ever feel pressure to like give the answers right away, or do you kind of take a step back to find a solution and then respond?
I think your human response is to want to give them the answer. But every situation is so vastly different depending on what exactly is going on in that moment. So, in my opinion, as long as we're actively communicating that, we've got someone on the way, we've got a team member on site, and by someone I mean a plumber who can actually go and, fix the issue, and someone on site, so we're actively giving them real-time updates, helps to reassure them because we don't want to make any promises we can't keep without getting a clear picture of what's going on.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that's a really important point because obviously communication is key. How did you kind of handle communication when you didn't have a clear resolution timeline?
Again, I think it's just getting notice out to all of the residents that are impacted. A frozen pipe or burst pipe means we've got to shut the water off completely. And so we never want any of our residents to be without an essential service. But at the same time, we also need to protect the property and protect their homes. And so for us, it's just sending notice out as quickly as we possibly can. So via email, via text, having someone on site. So if they came down and had questions, there's someone who can kind of continue to reassure them, and giving them real-time updates as we continue to get them throughout the process.
Was there ever a specific moment where you felt the situation was going to ever shift?
There was a moment where we could not find the valve to shut off the water. So, initial thoughts in that moment is let's call the fire department, anyone else who can assist us. But thankfully, the property manager was there and they knew the specific unique location. And so we had it shut off almost right away.
Oh my God, that's great. That answers my next question because I was going to ask internally, how was the team doing?
I think the team's reaction sometimes is similar to tenants, right? Where it's that initial panic. But in my experience, as long as they feel they've got the support on the back end from leadership, from their team, from maintenance, our vendors, and we can make sure that somebody's out there and on it really quickly. Just like the tenants, they also feel reassured. And once we've got a plan in place that they can execute, I think, they feel better about the situation and navigating that too.
Yeah, for sure. And I think in a situation like this where it's really time sensitive, trust is probably the biggest key factor in it all.
Yes, I would agree.
So I want to shift gears a little bit and talk about the outcome. How did this situation ultimately get resolved?
So it was thankfully resolved within the same day. So in any situation, again, with an essential service, our goal is always to restore that as quickly as we humanly possibly can. And so in this case, the residents had water restored the same day. The impact was actually only to the common areas, so there was no damage within any of the units itself. And I think a lot of that was thanks to the quick action on the property manager in ensuring the proper vendor was going out, and making sure that they were there within minutes, really.
Yeah, awesome. And when you have a situation like this, like you mentioned, it got resolved in the same day, which is great. I feel like that doesn't happen really often. Do you ever get feedback afterwards?
Yeah, I think in this case, we actually received some really positive feedback from our residents. It's not an ideal situation to be in. From a preventative standpoint, we don't have much control over the weather, but there are conversations that we did end up having with ownership and saying, hey, the common area, the basement in particular, was pretty cool. We never had a history of any sort of frozen pipes or burst pipes, but we were able to make recommendations for the future to help prevent that from happening again, which was installing an electrical heating system in the basement to keep things warm. So, it is, in this particular case, a conversation we had approached the ownership with before, and it wasn't anything they were interested in doing. Their building, for 30 years had never had that issue before. But as a direct result from this, it was approved pretty quickly. So fingers crossed that could help prevent some of these things moving forward.
Yeah, for sure. And I'm sure the residents probably felt so supported by their property manager in this situation too.
Yes, I think, if there is a positive from these types of situations is that they felt like Westward 360 had their back, their property manager had their back, and they know should something come up like this again, we'll handle it the same way.
Yeah, and I think that's a really powerful reminder that perception matters just as much as performance, and that's the perfect example.
Yes, I couldn't agree more.
Looking back now, I guess I'm curious, would you do anything differently?
Looking back, I don't think so. I think hindsight, you could say, could this have been prevented if that electric heater was installed? There's a chance, but at the same time, these historic buildings, they're older. You can only do so much. I think, if anything, it was praising our team internally, making sure that we shared with our team how to handle and navigate these type of urgent situations moving forward. And so really taking the moment to acknowledge what went right.
What lessons did this experience really teach you?
I think it teaches us when we've got all hands on deck working to resolve a situation and making sure that it's handled properly, that we can execute it really quickly and really well.
I want to shift gears a little bit and do something that I think we haven't done before, which is a rapid fire reflection. I'm going to ask you a couple of questions and you can give your short response.
Sure.
Awesome.
Let's do it.
One word that describes crisis management.
Adaptability.
Okay. Biggest misconception about property management?
I would say the biggest misconception is it's not just about the buildings, it's about the people. It's our clients, the tenants, and the property managers.
I love that. Most underrated skill in the industry?
I would say two things: emotional intelligence and critical thinking.
Oh, okay, I love those. For anyone listening who's dealing with their own everything's on fire moment, what advice would you give them?
Take a breath. When you panic first, you don't think as clearly, and oftentimes there's always some sort of a solution. And I'd say for those who tend to panic first and they own their own property, that's where Westward can come in, and we can step in. We've got a team and we've got systems in place.
For sure, I love that. I think that's advice that everybody needs to hear, because in the moment it's so easy to panic. That's the easy way out. It's so easy to panic and be like, oh my God, what's going on? Instead of actively finding a solution.
Yes, for sure.
Yes. Well, thank you so much, Kelsey. Do you have any closing thoughts for us?
No, this was great. Thanks for having me.
Awesome. Thank you to everyone who tuned in to this episode, and we'll catch you next time.